should be working. Let me check. Yeah, we should be live. But everything works. Hello?
Hello.
Alright. Should be work. It should work and nothing that should cause any problems. Alright, because I already streamed today. Just a YouTube thing. It's yes. Yeah. My mic is pretty loud, music is half of it, and you're talking it's the same as me, so it should be fine in terms of audio. I guess we can start. Alright.
Okay.
Your first thoughts on the Grand Prix. Go.
Okay, so obviously this Grand Prix ended Red Bull's win streak and Max's win streak, which are both record-breaking win streaks, which is insane. But obviously their cars weren't suited to like a road racetrack as Singapore is. So they lost that. McLaren, which is my team that I support, did insanely well, which I'm very proud of. And then Mercedes, of course, Russell crashed on the very last lap, which was pretty unfortunate. Hamilton did pretty well, but Hamilton is very consistent. He usually does well. Alonso, though, he was like down at the bottom, which wasn't the best thing to see, but his car was having some issues. Yeah, it was a very entertaining Grand Prix. There was a lot that happened, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think as well. I pretty much summed it up perfectly. Definitely, I would say this tops Dutch and Italian Grand Prix. I think this is the best race of this year, just because we got a fight for the lead. There's something we haven't really seen outside obviously Monza for 15 laps. But that doesn't really count, right? Because we knew who's gonna win that race, but here we got Verstappen starting in like 11th with a possibility of like three separate penalties. Which, two of them were reprimands and one was like nothing, which was pretty weird. When I saw the clip of him like impeding Tsunoda, I think that was like a slam dunk penalty, but apparently it's Max and Max doesn't really get penalties. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yep, so he started 11th, Perez in 13th, double Q to exit for Red Bull, who got them out of...
Yeah, that was insane. It was the way Lawson got them both out. Q2, we never see that.
It was the driver we least expected something like that to do, probably. In this third ever race weekend, on his track he never raced at before, and well, not so good of a car he has. Like, I mean, it's better than Haas and Alfa Romeos, I guess, but still not very good. He got into Q3, out-qualified both Red Bulls.
Lawson is an insanely good driver.
Yeah. That
I
kid
really
has
hope we see more of him.
A lot of potential, yeah. Okay. I guess we turn to predictions. I mean, we'll talk about what happened, obviously, during the predictions. Starting with pole position, none of us got it right. None of us expected Max to not be in the top 10, obviously. And you don't get a point, because the pole position was Carlos Sainz twice in a row. Well done.
Yeah, so, alright, let me pull up the spreadsheet real quick. Okay, I've got the spreadsheet. So, Singapore Grand Prix, all of us with Verstappen in first, which weirdly didn't happen.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay.
That's now for pole position, I guess, because we had Carlos Sainz and twice, 2 times in a row on pole position, which is pretty good for the Ferrari driver. Yep. What I didn't expect is to not get any points from a quali. It was like pretty wild. P2 was in reality like George Russell, I think. So now I was gonna
I think it was Russell.
I got Leclerc, which I mean it was a pretty close shot. He got 3rd place. Hamilton, on the other hand, was like 5th place. So
Hamilton, yeah.
Hamilton
Yeah,
didn't really seem too quick in quali. On the other hand, Russell did. Russell almost got pole position, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, P3 in reality was Charles, so no one's gonna point here either. Yeah, P3 Charles Leclerc, almost a 10th behind Carlos, which is I don't think was too bad. I think it's more of Carlos Sainz being quick that weekend rather than Charles being slow. I think both of them had a good weekend. I just think Carlos had a better weekend.
Better one.
That's just why he finished.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't think Leclerc had a bad weekend, and the Ferrari. I don't think the Ferrari had much more potential than he showed. Yep. P4 in reality was, I think it was Lando, right? Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Because the P5 was Hamilton, so.
Yeah, it was Lando.
Alright, so EJ gets a point, which is not really good for me and for you either, I guess. Yeah, not really ideal. I got Carlos in my top 5 though, so I don't had expected him to be top 5 in any of the sessions in the weekend. Which is pretty insane considering he got like first in 2 out of 3 practices and then went on to get pole position, lead every lap, and win the race. The only thing he didn't really get was the fastest lap, which was like one thing he lacked to get a Grand Slam, or how is it called? Grand Slam, basically, of Formula 1.
Yeah, Sainz was insane on this track.
Really close. Unfortunately, he only got a hat trick, which is still pretty good from him. Alright, now I was gonna put in here because P5 was Lewis, as we said already. I got Sainz, yeah, we talked about it. He just got Perez, and Perez 13th. No, nowhere close.
Yeah, kind of off.
And even Lando, just pretty close, but no points here. Yeah. Any other surprises of qualifying? I would say Magnussen, P6 in the Haas, that was pretty impressive. Then obviously Lawson. Other than that, I don't really remember. We talked about Carlos and Russell.
Red Bull.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore. I think Ocon was like PA, but still like Alpine. I guess that's pretty decent.
I must say the Red Bulls were very surprising. I knew they weren't going to do amazing at Singapore, but both out at Q2 was really surprising.
Yeah, I was like the one moment in the season when I'm actually excited for like the races and so on, because in Singapore, whenever there's like in the whole season one race that Red Bull or the like Verstappen doesn't win, it has to be Singapore, and it actually happened.
Yeah.
No Verstappen won the race, so now I've got a point here, and yeah, you two expected also Perez to be P2. Honestly, I thought Perez didn't even deserve a point in that race. He destroyed Tsunoda's race, then went on to destroy Albon's race. I mean, Perez was probably my least impressive driver of the weekend, to be honest. Apart from Stroll, obviously, but Stroll didn't really race in the race.
I would say, honestly, Perez is probably one of the least impressive.
I got Alonso, who
slightly off.
Yeah, he got into Q3, right? But he didn't really seem too quick to challenge for any kind of higher position. It was like 6/10 off pole position or something like that in the end. Pretty off. Never mind. Alonso, yeah, in the race. I just remembered the one line in the radio: "The car is undrivable." That was
AJX.
Wait, what?
AJX is gonna get quite a few points.
Yeah, that's all. I think that's true. Yeah.
Alonso.
What was I lost my thoughts. What was I thinking? Alonso's race. I was just looking at him. I think it was more of the car being bad. Like when we saw him enter the pits and get the penalty, like he couldn't even stop the car. It was just no braking, no brake power.
Yeah, I feel bad for Alonso. That race was pretty tough.
Yeah. And I think it was like another bad pit stop or whatever. And then just, yeah. We saw him in like P15 or whatever the last place was. He battled on the last lap in the like final few turns with like Sargent for like P14 whatever. That was funny. We saw Alonso in points in every single race this season, and it was the first race without Alonso in points, which is insane.
Yeah, it was very surprising. You always expect Alonso to be a pretty high-placing driver.
Yep. That means we also have only two drivers who scored points in every single race this season, who are Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah, highly regarded as the two best drivers in the grid right now, which is arguable, but fair arguments, I guess. Yeah, good for them. P3 in the race was in reality Lewis Hamilton, so 86 points.
Yep.
Okay, this doesn't look good. They're already 3 behind because I was one point behind coming into this. I see 2 people in the spreadsheet. Maybe one of them is VJ. Just looking at and getting the points. Alright. Norris was like pretty close. I mean, he was close to being overtaken to the end, but Sainz gave him the RS, which was pretty smart from him. I think it was a pretty good race from both of them. They seemed really quick throughout the entirety of the race. Really good drive from the Carlando duo. I got Charles, which was obviously one off as well. He got P4, almost got overtaken by Verstappen at the end. I don't know what it was, but Max got like 18 seconds in 5 laps on Charles at the end. It was like insane.
He was really playing catch up. Like, if he started like maybe like 3rd, he might have won. Honestly, like.
Yeah,
his car wasn't the best, but he was still doing really well.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I would say the Red Bulls were the strongest car in the race space. I still think they had the car to win. It was just the quality they screwed up. Honestly,
yeah.
Max, starting from P11, every single safety car or VSC was against him in terms of strategy. And he still came to P4, almost P4. I mean, I would say that was a pretty good drive, nonetheless.
Honestly, I think the Mercedes are the best cars for the track. Like, it's obvious that the Red Bulls aren't the best at Singapore. I think that's because it's a street track, not like just a normal Grand Prix. And the Mercedes were doing insanely well. I'd argue they were the best cars.
Yeah, it has some arguments, but I just don't feel like they quite had a pace over Ferrari, to be honest. Which,
yeah, Ferrari did insane.
I think Ferraris had like a bit of an edge over Mercedes. I think Mercedes had a better strategy towards the end as well, which made them look super quick. Like they were catching them like by 5 seconds or a lap or something like that crazy stuff. Yeah. P4, Perez nowhere near. I don't know if I should keep putting Perez in like higher positions. Every time I do, I just don't get points. Apart from like last time I got him in like P2, but that was like one time. Yeah, Russell was obviously could have been P4 if he would let Hamilton through and not crash. Yeah, unfortunate from George. He drove a really good race up until the last lap, so yeah, I know. Unfortunate.
Yeah, Russell really, it was an insane race from him, but the very end is where it got bad.
Yeah, seems like he used his tires up too much towards the end. and Lewis had a bit of a pace advantage. I think he, even if they swapped, I think it would stay the same as Lewis in P3. I don't think that was a way for Hamilton to overtake Norris, but we'll never know.
Yeah, I saw on Norris's cam that Russell followed Norris like in the last lap, and Norris clipped the wall, so Russell also clipped it. He just clipped it a bit worse.
Yeah, yeah, I see it as well. It was like maybe he was kind of copying his line,
Yeah,
which made him touch the wall. Which is like, I mean, yeah, he drove a great race. He had a great weekend overall. He almost got pole position, beat Hamilton by like over 3 tenths, which was crazy because it's Hamilton, the driver with the most pole positions, and in the race, almost. Don't want to say won because he definitely had the pace to it, but the track wasn't really good for overtaking, so it was difficult for him to overtake the top two. But definitely could have had a really solid chance for podium. Obviously, he was P3 in the middle of the last lap, but yeah, unfortunate. Alonso in P4 for you. Yeah, nowhere near. Unfortunately.
yeah, it did not work out for me.
Yep. North of P5, none of us getting right because it's Max in reality. Although Hamilton was P4 for, I mean,
Would have been.
half of the race was like P4, and Leclerc was P4 in the end, almost lost the P5. So we actually were pretty close to AJ's getting a point here for Leclerc.
Yeah, luckily you didn't get another one.
Yep. And this is where we get to a very painful one. Most impressive driver, Esteban Ocon. Can you imagine if you wouldn't have Alpine under him? If it was actually a car that can finish a race, imagine.
Yeah, he would be a pretty insane driver.
He could have finished like P5, maybe P6 because Max was like rapid at the end, but P6 for Alpine considering they didn't exit like into the Q2 last time. I would have a point here like straight away, but since he DNF'd, it's really difficult to give him the point here. I think EJ's wouldn't give him the point, and I would understand, but still, like, I feel so robbed here.
Yeah, it was close.
It was like such a good prediction because both Alpines were doing so good. Ocon was like P5, P6 the whole race, and like 20 laps to go, and he just DNF'd. I was so pissed at the moment.
Yeah, it was kind of upsetting.
What do we do? Because there are a lot of other impressive drives, and if we have to go over the most impressive driver, I wouldn't get a point here.
This year.
Yeah, Ocon would have to finish the race in order to get a point, because we had Lawson getting like P9 or whatever in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, I'd argue Lawson was the most impressive.
Yeah. Then we have obviously Carlos and Lando, pretty good races from them. Max, even though he didn't qualify well, that was mostly due to the car not being too good, but still he had an insane race. Probably the fastest driver in the race pace, in my opinion. Obviously, we'll never know. If he would have started higher up, would he win the race and get 11 in a row? We'll never know. Yeah. Other impressive drives. Obviously, Gasly got P6, but he kind of got helped by Russell DNFing and Ocon DNFing in front of him, so not really that impressive. Magnussen P10 in the slowest car in the grid. I would say that was one of the
was insane.
One of the greatest drives this weekend. Like, when you remember, Magnussen was like fighting Gasly or someone like for the points. Then he got like pushed off the track, lost like 5 positions, and still came to get the point. I don't understand. Like, how did he manage to do that? That was insane.
Yeah, Magnussen's really underrated.
Yeah, I would say he had the pace over Nico in this Grand Prix, which is pretty rare to see in this season. But maybe Magnussen's finally getting like comfortable with the car, which obviously we know Magnussen has pace. Yeah, Hulkenberg showed the car can do well in quali under certain circumstances, but Unfortunately, we haven't seen Magnussen really high up for most of the season, so hopefully this is signs to come, and hopefully Magnussen can deliver some results.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep. Ajax had Tsunoda. I mean, he got first in Q1, but then in Q2 he got impeded in both of his runs. I forget whichever was the second one, but in the first run he got impeded by Max, so he couldn't get into Q2, even though his Q1 lap time would get him P9 in Q3, which is, I would say I would say Tsunoda had way more pace in hand. I would say he could have gotten like P8 or P7 in quali, if he would have gotten into Q3, obviously, which is pretty unlucky.
Yeah, that's unfortunate he didn't get it.
Yeah, and then in the race, DNF by Perez, that was so unlucky. Tsunoda had one of the unluckiest weekends I've seen in a while. That was just pure bad luck. But same for Ocon. I don't think we can give Tsunoda a point here, even though he had obviously a lot of pace this weekend. Wasn't really doing any mistakes and so on. Just unfortunate. That was bad luck. Nothing we can really do there. And Albon, yeah, I wasn't really impressed by Williams this race or this week Grand Prix. Williams seemed like sometimes they had pace, sometimes they didn't. It was like up and down. I don't know. Maybe they could have gotten a point there if Perez didn't like torpedo Albon, but yeah, we'll never know. Again, Albon I think had a decent race, nothing spectacular, but yeah, no points really. We had Lawson and so on. Alright, so no points for either of us. Neither of us. Alright. Least impressive driver. This is difficult because there are like two drivers I can think of. Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. Who do you give it to? Like, I can see arguments for both, but obviously I get a point if it's Stroll.
I would argue Perez. He looked like he was high that entire race.
Yeah, this is difficult because we didn't see Stroll in the race itself, but that was his fault. He didn't even race. Like, like he crashed in quali, injured himself, and then didn't race the race itself. Like, he didn't even have a chance to race, which was obviously his fault. So, how more unimpressive can he be? Like,
I get what you're saying, but I think Perez would have had a more impressive race, just not showing up.
I mean, Perez still finished like P7, or was it? If he would have finished outside of points, even though he ruined two drivers' race, qualifying 2 positions behind Max, which is like, we cannot really judge it, but obviously Singapore, but in the race, it looked like he had the pace, but didn't really drive.
He didn't drive well. I think that's the problem.
Yeah. It was like a lot of contact here and there, a lot of pushing drivers off track and so on. I still think I would give Stroll the point here just because it was like the worst weekend possible. Like, crashed in Q1, get 20th, and then don't even start the race because of your own crash. Like that.
Yeah.
That's probably.
I'd say both are just as bad, so you can give yourself a point for Stroll.
If you would have a Perez there or Ajax, I would give both the points here because both of them are really unimpressive. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bad. Ajax had Piastri, who was, I mean,
Piastri
Q1
did
exit.
pretty well.
It was pretty unlucky that Stroll crashed. Piastri couldn't really improve. Obviously had the pace as he showed in the race. P7 or whatever, made up 10 positions. I don't think that's least impressive. You got Russell, which is, again, arguable, but still, he
did really well.
Insanely good weekend up until the last lap. When I compare him to the Stroll one or Perez one, I think solid P3 in the least impressive driver standings, but I would still say Perez and Stroll were less impressive in this sense.
Yeah.
Alright. Final point for me, which is positive. Also, I would give it a point here if Ajax was here and he would agree with me, but I can't convince myself. Okay, most impressive team, Alpine. Again, if Ocon had the Renault engine, could have had a point here, because yeah, Alpine reliability cost me 2 points.
Yeah, it is Alpine after all.
Yeah. Ajax went with Mercedes. I mean, they were quick, but they didn't win the race on anything. It was like a great weekend for Mercedes, but not the most impressive team by far. I would say the most impressive team were actually it was like Ferrari.
Yeah, I agree. It's Ferrari here.
Ferrari or Haas maybe, because like considering they were the slowest car in the grid and got double Q3 plus point. That's a like Haas. Imagine like Williams doing it whenever they were like last year. They were like getting point every 10 races. This is the same situation. They got both cars in the Q3. And we're in the top 10 with both cars for a significant amount of a race. They got a point there. Like
Haas did pretty well.
But yeah, I don't think in this objectively judging, I would say Haas were less impressive than Ferrari, but more impressive than McLaren and Mercedes.
Yeah, I think it would go Ferrari, Haas, McLaren, Mercedes.
Yep. Yeah, I would say the same. Also, AlphaTauri is a good shout. Tsunoda was really, really unlucky to not get into Q3 and to not get points, basically, because we saw Lawson in P9. I think this could have been a really good weekend for AlphaTauri, unfortunate, but
yeah.
If Tsunoda went into Q3 and got like good amount of points, we could have given them the point. But yeah, I think it's Ferrari here, so none of us get a point.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Well, least impressive team. None of us, not even close. Ferrari.
Yeah, none of them.
Ferrari would say the most impressive team this weekend, because we didn't expect them to maintain their speed from Monza, because Monza was like supposed to be their good track, and we expected Red Bulls to dominate. Basically, the Ferraris to be the most impressive team, they would need to do as good or better as in Monza, and no one expected them to do that. So very impressive for Ferrari and McLaren. They had a pretty good weekend. Unluckily, Piastri. Norris had the upgrades and not almost, but he got P2. Really, really good result for him. So
yeah, almost pole. So close.
Yeah, as well. True. Actual predictions. Russell bad luck. I wouldn't say that was too bad luck, but basically what I expected him to DNF in the race. If I would have had that in the thingy, I would have got a point here, but I went with like a DNF outside of his powers, basically him having an engine failure or someone crashing into him. Unfortunately, he crashed on his own. I don't get a point here.
Yeah.
The
Ajax was pretty off.
The next one is pretty interesting. Max, further in every session, he didn't get first any session. Basically, the closest he got to like first place was like in like practice 1 or practice 2, when he got like P3 or whatever.
Yeah, Verstappen did not first stop in this race.
Yeah. I mean, Gasly DNF. It was Ocon, the wrong Alpine, but at least you got the team right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's always pretty safe going with one of the Alpines to DNF.
Look at that. 3 points in total from all of us.
Wow.
That's
this
insane.
is a really unpredictable one.
Yeah. Although there were like a lot of missed points here, like lot of missed points. Because
Mm.
me and AJ's could have gotten Russell if he hadn't crashed in the last lap.
Yeah, but sometimes luck just isn't on your side.
Yeah, this weekend luck is on every other side but mine, basically. Although,
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't get any points here, but I think you had a pretty decent predictions apart from the second last two, basically the teams predictions. Those are pretty
A
off.
lot of one-offs for me.
Yeah, Ferrari was like, oh.
Mm.
Yep. Okay. Scoring wise, AJ gets 2 points, I get 1, and you get 0, which means he's on 21 points. I'm on 19, and you're on 7.
Let's go. I'm catching up.
You're slowly catching up, and you have the third this points while participating
I'm
in
top
half
3.
of the. Okay, technically you have 2.3 points average. AJ had 3.5, and I had 3.2. So, yeah. Even though you joined,
Wait, what's my average?
you're 2.3. Basically, you would need a really good amount of points to upgrade your average. Because basically, if
I'm
you
gonna
would
get
have
10 points next time.
yeah, if you would have predicted the first 3 with your own average, you would be at what is it, 7 plus 7, so 14. You're like 5 points behind me, based on your average.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, next up,
My
Japanese Grand
predictions
Prix.
weren't too good this time.
Yeah, I mean, Japan. Anything can happen, right? Like, no one expected Singapore to be this crazy. Like, battle for the lead throughout most of the race was just something we haven't really expected in this season, especially 2023. Max Verstappen winning every single race, 10 in a row. No one expected Singapore to happen,
Right.
and I'm so glad it happened.
Yeah, same. But I think Red Bull will be back on their game for Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone thinks that. It's just, I think this was pretty much a one-off. Just Singapore not really suiting the Red Bull.
It's always
car.
Singapore.
Yeah, we're very fortunate with one good race, but we may as well see Max lapping the entire field next week, or actually this week, because it's in like 4 days. So
Yeah.
alright, final thoughts.
It was really entertaining. Grand Prix, of course. It's always entertaining with Singapore's track. And it was great doing the predictions. I really enjoyed it. Next time, my predictions are gonna be better. And yeah, it was great being on the stream. Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad you joined as well. Last question: did you enjoy the track change? Basically, the removal of the 2 chicanes in sector 3.
I don't really mind it, but I do prefer it, the normal way. So I don't really
you prefer
care too
the
much.
2 chicanes there.
Yeah.
I mean that's fair. I personally prefer this layout way more because I'll get to drive it in the F1 game. Obviously, we didn't really know how would it have played out if it was the regular layout. Maybe we would have seen Red Bulls even more downgrade.
Yeah, I think the Red Bulls would perform worse.
Yeah, and when it comes to how the track went, I think Mercedes were the strongest in the slow speed corner, so we may as well would have seen like Russell pole with probably a Russell win, and yeah, considering he DNF'd, it's a shame.
Yeah, it is. He was really doing so well too.
Yeah, I think this was the one weekend when he really needed to get at least a podium. I think that
Yeah,
was.
and he was so solid throughout it. It looked like he was gonna get it.
Yeah. Like, I think this is like a pretty critical race because now he's like 70 points behind Hamilton in the standings, which is like crazy considering how close they are as a teammate. I think
Yeah.
they're like, I would say the second closest duo or teammate duo behind Ferraris. Obviously,
Mm,
Ferrari is like the closest driver pairing right now.
yeah, they are. I'd say McLaren are also pretty close. And then
Yeah,
Red Bull, they usually get like both of them podium, but that's just the car. I think the skill difference is there.
I mean Red Bull is everything but a balanced driver pairing. It's
Yeah.
one driver is getting first every race, and the other driver is struggling to get into Q3. So, yeah, all right. That was a pretty good stream. It's,
Yeah, it
we
was.
got in 36 minutes, which is what I actually expected. So, thank you for coming into the stream, and I'm gonna end it now.
Yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, Sahwgunn's chat.